everyone, and welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the world and the internet trying to find supplies that will make you a better artist or just allow you to enjoy the craft that much more. And today we are rounding off our Inktober supply list where we've been trying different kind of inking utensils, and today is Micron Day, and this is probably one of the, I was gonna say, iconic inking utensils. This is in all kind of art kits. This is in every store. If you're looking for something to pick up that's easy to find, then Sakura's Micron Pens are the one to look for. So we're going to be checking out this pack. It goes from 0.005 to a 1. It also has a pencil in there, which we won't be using, but we're going to end off with what I think is probably the most iconic inking utensil that's out there. Now we just need to find out if it's worth it. Okay, so with the Sakura Microns, the packaging, right? I like the fact that it's not just a bag or a little plastic case that has no information on it. So there's a little bit of information. It tells you what it's good for: sketching and inking. Its archival quality ensures long-lasting illustrations, includes the popular nib sizes used by industry pros for creating graphic novels and daily comic illustrations. It's a nice little pack, right? It's got 8 pieces in it, and it's great for people who need to start with a pencil. Like I said, we're not going to use that, but we're going to go from the 0.005 to the 1, and we're going to see what these are all about. And these are labeled as black, so that just leads me to believe that there are a whole bunch of colors that are available for the Microns. Alright, so, and just in case you're curious, this pack comes with a 0.07 micron pencil. Alright, so we're going to move this out of the way and look at these. Alright, so it's a pretty sturdy pen. It is, and I mean, they're all pretty much plastic, but this one you can feel the plastic on it. It's not bad. It doesn't feel like super plasticky. It's a sturdy plastic, so that's really good. It has a metal clip, right? It's way more sturdy than the Copic ones that we looked at, right, which were plastic, and the Faber-Castell ones, which are plastic. So this is actually way sturdier. I love that. Oh, you hear that snap? As we are all obsessed with the cap, right? So it's got a nice cap snap and resistance when you pull it apart. Oh, even the back snaps. All right, so that's great. So you know that this thing is not coming off when you move it. So that's really good. The nibs, so what, this is a 01. So this is the smallest nib they have. It's a 0.005. It's very thin. Right? Very, very thin, but it looks to have a strong nib on there. I hope that these aren't, you know, flexible and move and break and stuff like that. So, but the significant jump from from 0.005 to a 0.1 is really big. Like, you can see the difference from that nib versus the other nib, so that's interesting. So even the 01 has a very sturdy ink nib on it, and I do like the fact that they go from, you know, 0.01 to 2 to 3, and then the popular size of a 5, then it goes to 8, which is a nice, look at that. That is a super sturdy nib. That's not gonna break anytime soon, so that's good. And then they have the graphic 1. So these are microns, and this is a graphic 1. So this looks like it doesn't have the same nib, right? It doesn't have the same metal nib. It's a plastic nib, and then this is different. So it comes to a point, and it might actually be a different consistency as far as the actual nib goes. So we'll have to test that out and see what actually happens if it frays apart, like if it becomes like a felt tip, and then it kind of does weird things with its shape and stuff like that. So we'll check that out in a little bit. All right, let's jump into it. Right. And we're gonna start with the 0.05, and as you know from all the ones that I've actually done, these little itty bitty ones, they actually scare me because I'm always afraid of breaking them. Oh, that actually flows really nice. Oh, there we go. See, the faster you start going, right there. See that? You can see it. So the faster you go, the ink starts to just break away. Yeah, see, that's not the, with these little ones, what I've realized with these little ones is that you can't make long lines with them. These are definitely meant for little itty bitty details, right? And even then, these 0.5s, they start bleeding, or they start missing the ink, like it just doesn't flow fast enough. So, and once again, as I said, for every single one of them, it might be a manufacturing issue. It might be the fact that it sat too long in the store when I got it. But one thing that I've realized consistently, at least for me, I'm sure there are people who use these 0.005s all the time, but for me, the 0.005s have always been a problem. I always get these kind of, the ink is missing or it pools at the top. So I'm not a big fan of the 0.05s, but like I said, I know that there are people out there who do use that. So if you are one of those people, please drop me a comment and let me know why you use it and how it's good for you, because maybe I'm just missing something. All right, so now we're gonna go to the 0.1. Ah, that is nice. These are really nice, and it flows great. Right, and I can't necessarily say that it pools, right, unless I've done something. And that's a nice size too for a 0.1. Normally they're so tiny, but this 0.1 is actually really nice size. I can see inking, like I would use a 0.1 for all my little itty bitty details. You know, and it seems to be holding up to the speed of just movement, so that's good. So the 0.1 is actually really nice pen. All right, so now 0.2, which shouldn't be too much bigger, but they put it in here, and you know I'm trying to torture it by putting it up on that the lip. So that's not necessarily fair for if the ink actually falls apart, you know, like as it's going over that nib or that little hump. So, but this one seems to work just fine. All right, ink comes out nice and dark. Very happy with that. All right, and at such a small number. Normally what we've been seeing is that they start coming out dark later, right? 0.5, 0.8. This one, the 0.1 and 0.2, it actually comes out pretty dark. But the one thing that I've seen, and I mean, I don't know if you guys can really see this when it comes to the actual markings on the paper, but it comes out nice and dark and then it fades, right? So once the ink actually settles in the paper, it actually fades with these lower numbers. And it's doing it here too. So that's something that you definitely have to look out for, is if you are pulling or inking and you know it looks all nice and super dark, once it starts to dry, it might actually look a lot lighter, which could become a problem if you are erasing, right? We always do the eraser test, and because of that, because it's already a faded ink, it might actually just fade out. So something to keep in mind. But I can see that the 02 is actually holding a lot more of its opacity, so its saturation and whatnot, so it's actually staying a lot darker. So you don't have to worry too much about that once you get to at least a 02. And the 01's not bad, but the 02 is holding its ink a lot better. This one is a 03. And the one thing that I have to say about the Micron pens is that it's not bleeding. It's not pooling at the very beginning, which is something that I actually enjoy a lot. Because if you are trying to make a straight line and it always kind of gets that weird dot, that weird bubble at the beginning, then you kind of have to go over the line, make that longer or thicker just to make sure that it doesn't look like it's, like you have this and then you pull your line out. So this is actually really nice. Even at the lower numbers, it didn't pool at all. So I'm very, very impressed and liking the fact that I can actually do some lines and it doesn't pool. And as you can see, the 03 is holding its ink, it seems like. Although the 02 seems to be a little bit darker. But as far as the speed goes, it's smooth, it flows really nicely. It allows you to do a thick to thin line if you push down a little bit, and once you pull, once you actually lift up your pen, it gets to a nice point. These are holding up really nice. All right, let's go to the standard, the 05. Right, even with making curves, these work really nice. Okay, but one of the things that I've noticed is the faster you make these, the ink is actually starting to fade a lot faster. Like this 05 seems to be fading really, really fast back into that set of like, oh, well, this is what it looks like when it dries. The 05 seems to get there a lot faster. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know if it is the pen, if it's the actual inking pen, or if it just sat there too long. Sometimes pens sit there and it's something that you have to worry about all the time, unless you are doing literal traditional inking where you have a brush and the ink that's right there and you dip it, or you have the dip pen and you do that, then you know exactly how dark your ink is. But when it comes to these pre-made pens that you don't refill and stuff like that, you're kind of stuck with what actually comes out of the pen. But with these last few, it seems as though this pen, the 05, needed to get warmed up a little bit. Right? Needed to get warmed up just a little bit, but it holds. I mean, look at how, you can make these lines really, really fast, and that ink just flows with it. So that is something that needs to be said. Not every pen can hold up to the speed test, where you're actually moving really, really fast because you're just trying to put down ink and just have it there. These pens have been very, very good for actually speed, right? So if you're just trying to do really quick inks, or you're trying to do an ink sketch or life drawing, these pens are actually really good. The only thing that I've noticed primarily with this SAKURA Micron pens is that they do fade, right? So it's not the same black that when you put it down, it's not the same black. And that just happens because it's actually seeping into the paper, right? And so it's making itself steadfast and stuff like that. And it happens relatively fast. So the eraser test shouldn't even be a problem because it actually pulls into the paper really, really fast. But it does fade, which is kind of sad. But that's something you have to get used to, I guess. I like the pens that actually, when you put the ink down, it stays pretty much the same color, nice and dark and black. Okay, so this is the 08. Right, it flows really nice, although not as
not doing as well with the speed aspect because it's starting to fade in the middle. I know you guys won't even be able to see that, but it's actually fading in between the lines. So when you start and finish, it actually fades out. So, and that one, see, that one might actually be a problem with just how big it is, and the ink just can't flow out as fast. But to be honest, I think that it's just, you know, probably just a pen. Like, oh, this pen has been in this pack for a while. Yeah, because the ink on this one is inconsistent. I like the size that comes out of it, right? It seems nice. The flow is really nice. The problem is that once you start moving it, you can just see that it kind of pulls apart there. It's inconsistent as far as where the ink comes out or how it comes out. And I'm trying to do a lot to try and warm it up to see if that's the issue. Because it seems, like I said, these flow really nice, like once they get going. But, well, no. You know, I want to say that once it warms up, no, it seems pretty consistent now. Once it warms up, once you get the ink actually flowing into it, it actually warms up pretty nice. And then you get these nice thick lines, so that's really good. So, yeah. Sometimes you might just have to warm them up. So it might be something to consider that you actually do a test sheet to warm it up. Stuff like that, because sometimes you just can't pull it out the pack and it give you 100% what it's capable of. All right, so now we're going to the graphic 1. We're going to try this. All right, well, it feels the same as far as nib wise and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like it's bending or anything like that. But so far, with the tip that it has, you can get a nice thin line, right? Nice thin line, and then you kind of pull back on your holding, you can actually get a really nice thick line, right? So it gives you a little bit of versatility in it. Ink comes out really nice, but as I'm seeing, the faster you go, the less it has the ability to stay consistent, right? So with this one, I mean, it might be a warm-up, but you can see how it just kind of pulls apart in certain areas, but it is staying darker than the rest, so that's always good. So, I mean, and I know it's now, see, the nib is actually trying to form to the way that I ink, right? And so what that's going to do is give you this nicer, thicker line. So just know that at the beginning of these, you'll have a nice thin tip that you can actually use, and then as you move on and you start wearing it, it's going to flatten out, right? And then that way you get a nice thick line. But as I've been going along, right, if you go, no, I want to say it's like I had a couple where it was like I was going slow enough, it was nice, even, consistent movement, but then again, once I start going, the ink started breaking apart. So this is definitely one of those ones where once you work it, it actually starts working, right? And you get some nice lines. But then once you try it again, you just got to watch out with this one, because I think that this is a great pen. It's versatile once it starts going, right? You got a nice thin tip, and then you can make it a nice thick tip. But once you do, it kind of frays towards the top. So that's something you got to worry about. And then down here, we'll just throw a nice quick eraser test, right, to round us off. Let's see what happens here. Oh, see, even with that, you can start seeing like you go fast, the ink doesn't hold up. All right, so there are our lines. Here's a regular eraser. And then, I mean, but it's already faded here. So these 3 right here are already faded. Test might be tainted. But we'll erase over here on the edges where it actually seems to be where all the ink is. But as you can see here, 05 or 08, 0, I mean, and the graphic 1 are pretty dark, right? But it is speed, and it just fades. Now, granted, I am going over this little hump here, so that might have something to do with it. But I mean, we can erase all of this and see what happens. But go over it a couple times. No, it's pretty. I mean, gotta give it that. It seeps into that paper pretty quickly. I mean, it does fade. Like, the thinner you get, the more it fades. But, you know, let's start erasing some of these other ones. It fades a little bit, right? But I mean, that's to be expected. But I have to say that as far as some of the other markers that or pens that we've used, the SAKURA ones are definitely holding up as far as erasing. So as long as you're not sitting there trying to erase the entire paper, then you might actually be able to keep the consistency of the blacks that you already have, despite the fact that you need to erase some of your pencil lines out.
All right, so we just got done reviewing the Micron pens, so SAKURA's Micron pens, and all in all, they're all right. You know, they're not the best. They're not as consistent as I would have hoped for being the standard, but they are relatively cheap. You can find them everywhere, and you know, the ink itself holds to the eraser test, and that's a big one when it comes to ink. You want to make sure that it doesn't just fade, like it doesn't erase itself out, especially if you're like me and you do all your underdrawings in pencil and then you want to get rid of those pencil lines. You have to erase, especially if you're putting marker on top of it, right? You don't want your graphite to be interacting with your marker, so you need to erase out the lines. And having the Micron pens and the ink that they use hold up to being erased a couple times and it doesn't fade as much is very important. Though the nibs were great, you know, the big thing for me is that the inconsistency of the ink, right? So the flow, as it moved forward, if you were going fast or you know, I had more pens that would kind of fade out in the middle than I didn't. And that's a big problem because, once again, it could be a manufacturing issue. It could be the fact that the pen sat in the store for too long. It could be all those things, but you don't know. And because of that, and because it was so consistent with so many, that's a problem. Like, you don't want to have to fight with your pen. But like I said, these are actually pretty good pens. They're affordable, they're everywhere, and yeah, I mean, for the price, these are definitely worth it. Just hope that you get one that is newer to the store, so that it will actually give you the ink that you need. So I would definitely, especially if you are a student or someone who's just getting into it, definitely try these, because they're not going to cost you a lot of money, but they can still give you a professional look, and it will hold. The ink will hold, and that's a big one for me, and that's why I'm actually recommending it, because the ink does hold. It does not erase out, which is an absolute must when it comes to these inking pens. Well, that wraps up Inktober's inking utensils, and I hope that you enjoyed the series of videos that came out for Inktober, and that you actually were able to learn something and maybe even find the pen that you're going to try next. So please, 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 if you did enjoy this video, like and share it. And if you're new to the channel, definitely come out and hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you know when these videos come out. The Is It Worth It's come out every single week, and I am taking your suggestions and putting them into the rotation list. So please, if you do have a suggestion of a material that you would like me to try, put it in the comments and I will add it to the list. And next week's episode is a suggestion from a subscriber to the channel, and we are going to be tackling Copic markers. So if you're interested in Copic markers, make sure to subscribe and check out next week's video. Thank you guys so very much, and I will see you at the next video. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to check out some of my other videos, click on the link on your right. Or, if you're interested in a more behind the scenes and personal look at what I do on a day-to-day basis, please click on the link that leads you to the vlog. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next video.